on KTLA back in the day. Anyway, Christy and Joe Horton, 9th anniversary, and Hugh Janus, turning 10.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
And John, you're probably asking yourself, what the hell is going on?
No, I was surprised that today was once again, January 3rd, and you were ringing some stupid bell.
December 3rd. It was
December 3rd.
December 3rd. Okay, we have a glitch in the computer system, and ultimately it's my fault. I will take 100% what is guilt or whatever, or whatever.
Culpability.
Culpability. That's a good one. John's good with those good $3 words. I will take total culpability for the fact, and we have no commercials this hour. That's why we had no Fox News or anything like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the show like we normally do in 3 blocks, but there will be no commercials between blocks. So don't go to the bathroom between blocks, John, because we will end one block and we'll go right to the next and go right to the next. So you know what that means? It means we get like another 5 or 6 minutes to do the show today. So do you think we can fill it with enough stuff to actually do almost a complete hour?
I don't know. There's not much going on in the world or in Missouri. So at the beginning, because you're going to end up putting in commercials, can we call the beginning of a new block, we could call it the blockhead?
The blockhead, right.
So Brad's blockhead.
Yeah, that's appropriate. Okay, so we will go right into John's top 3. Now, why do we do this? Because of the fact that John has this amazing website called johncombest.com. Has dozens of stories on there every single day. He's never missed a day in 24 years updating it. Now, the only problem is some people may go, oh my God, there's so much stuff on his website. Where do I start? So what we do is we bring in this fine gentleman right here.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And we give the top 3 stories on John Combest's website. And we start off with...
In 3rd place...
Brad, can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah, go ahead.
As the son of a civil engineer and a man who made his bones with a traffic network, you're a bit of a traffic expert. So here's my intensely personal question. Where are you on New Jersey jugs? Are you into New Jersey jugs? Are you more of like a Louisiana leg kind of guy, maybe a Dallas donk? Or are you a New Jersey jugs guy?
I don't know, John. I'm going to plead the fifth. I don't know what you're talking about. There's a couple things here that could be a speed gun, because if you know your sports, the original manufacturer of the sports gun, the speed gun that they used to time pitches with, was called the jugs gun. Do you remember that?
And having a jugs machine too. Don't forget the jugs machine.
Jugs machine, which was the ones that pitch the balls, the machine that pitched the balls.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So, Brad, I know that you're big in that balls talk, but let's get away from that for just a second. I ask you this question because I see a fantastic story up on johncombest.com today, written by a gentleman named Jeff Folsom, a columnist and reporter, pardon me, from the Washington Missourian newspaper. He's exploring what's definitely going to be a new intersection to fix the congestion at highways 47 and 50 in Union. Brad, for folks in the audience who aren't blessed to know that intersection, would you say that's a pretty hectic, congested intersection?
Yes, part of the problem is because what happens is you're coming, let's say you're coming from Washington down to Union, and you want to continue on 47. The problem is 47 technically ends right there at 50. You have to make a left turn and go east on 50, about a quarter, maybe half mile. And then you have to make a right at the Quick Trip and continue to go south on 47. And they've done a bunch of rebuilds down there. It's always been a mess because that's a problem. There's a lot of traffic, especially, I don't know if you know this or not, John. There's a lot of tractor-trailer traffic on 47 that comes out of Wentzville. And you know what's going south on 47 out of Wentzville?
What's coming out of there?
It's the vans and the trucks that are made at the GM plant in Wentzville, because the truck drivers take the shortcut instead of driving 44 east are 70 east into St. Louis and then looping around in 270 and go west in 44. They just go out to Warrenton. They take 47 all the way down in through St. Clair, through Washington, Union, St. Clair, and then they pick up 44 going west if they're going out to the southwest to deliver those trucks. So a lot
they're treacherous truckers that are destroying the streets is what you're saying, the roads.
Yeah. So what are they doing down there in Union?
Well, Jeff explains here. While the Missouri Department of Transportation has yet to release the results of the study, one aspect of the project appears to be coming into focus. And the primary, I guess you could say, the leading candidate for that intersection will be called a, quote, continuous flow, end quote, solution. MoDOT says continuous flow was the top pick of survey takers, and local officials seem to view it as a cost-effective way to get rid of traffic jams. Now, Jeff goes on to explain that there's a few different ways to handle traffic congestion. And this is why I cite you, Brad, because I'm sure you're familiar with some of these. Other attempts to mitigate left turns include the, quote, New Jersey jug handle. You want to get a good handle on them, Brad. Also, the Michigan left, and, of course, roundabouts. Now, the additional gem of this whole thing and why I wanted to bring it up to you is because Jeff is, I don't know, maybe in the Brad Hildebrand mode, where Jeff seems to really like YouTube videos and YouTube creators. And Jeff points to a gentleman named Mileage Mike. And this guy seems right up your alley. I guess he drives around and identifies different cool traffic patterns in the way that civil engineers build roads. Have you heard of Mileage Mike before?
I think that's another pseudonym for Info Dude. I think that's the same guy.
It might be.
Is.
It might be a guy that likes to call into radio shows on occasion and give Brad real-time feedback. So the bottom line here is that it looks like this continuous flow, and Jeff goes into describing exactly what continuous flow is. And as I understand this, Brad, civil engineers have always looked at people trying to make a left turn as being cumbersome and dangerous. And there's different ways in the modern era to ameliorate that problem. Is that a fair way to put it?
Oh, yeah. Except the interesting part of this is that there was a time when the MoDOT people were dead set against roundabouts. They didn't want the roundabouts. And now we have roundabouts everywhere. So it must have been, you know what happened? I think the guy who held the patent on roundabouts came in and bought them all dinner and got them all liquored up. And then they go, well, you know what? Those roundabouts aren't that bad. So let's do that. So they bought the patent and they're doing the roundabouts. You know what I'm saying?
Boy, the roundabout lobby is huge. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, the roundabout
It's probably based in another country and they're probably trying to influence our elections. Hey, speaking of influencing elections with money, you think it's time for story number 2?
I do. So we'll hit the button and we'll get story number 2 right now.
Up a notch to number 2.
A familiar name makes an appearance both as a highlight of story number 2 and as a little bit of a cameo in story number 1. But we'll start with story number 2. This piece was put together by the progressive blog, the Missouri Independent, and one of their really good content creators named Rudy Keller. And he covered an elections committee hearing. You know, folks in Jeff City are already getting together and having committee hearings on important bills. And the House Elections Committee met yesterday to discuss a piece of legislation that we've discussed on this show before. And it's a Republican bill that you could say targets another Republican. Representative Jim Murphy from South St. Louis County, pardon me, has a bill that's focused on what you could call the Bill Eigel fundraising tactic of recurring contributions. Brad, you remember the story about Bill Eigel's recurring contributions, right?
Oh, yeah, where some poor retired dude has been giving him money for like 10 years or something like that. Wasn't that the deal?
Yeah, and that's only a slight exaggeration, I think. But folks can sign up to give contributions, and then I guess you could say, I think it's fair to say the fine print says you give your first X dollar contribution, and then every month we'll bill you. It's almost like a Netflix or other subscription service. And so Jim Murphy's bill would straight up ban political candidates in Missouri from receiving recurring contributions. Now, Rudy notes, as a good journalist, today he's a content creator, but as a former journalist, Rudy notes that Jim Murphy got a little pushback on it. And Jim said, hey, I would be even willing to compromise on this bill and say that recurring contributions are indeed legal, but the candidate has to get express approval from the person signing up. In other words, it can't be a tiny little part of the fine print. If people really wanted to give $20 a month, they can do it, but they have to at least make it clear that that is their intention and they're not being duped. So I'm not sure exactly where this bill will go or if it will get traction, but it highlights something that we've talked about before. And back in November, I said that Bill Eigel should go back and contact at least some of the people who gave him recurring contributions, including some of the most egregious cases that have been highlighted by media and blogs, refund their money, and at least show, hey, I've begun a process by which I'm giving some folks their money back. I want folks to make informed decisions about where their money goes, et cetera, et cetera. We haven't seen, as of yesterday at 6 a.m., I didn't check this morning, but as of yesterday morning, Eigel's campaign and the campaigns of his competitors in the Republican primary for St. Charles County Executive have not yet filed their Missouri Ethics Commission reports. So when Eigel does, when Bill Pack does indeed file, we're going to see if he's continuing the recurring contributions method or if he has stopped that.
John, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, please do.
And I know you tried to, with a lot of fanfare, sort of hide what you're going to do with number one. I'm going to ask you a question because if number one is about Kehoe's speech yesterday, I will refrain from making my comment right now, and I'll wait till after you're done with that. Is number one your key? Is Kehoe is the state of the state thing?
Brad, I think you should refrain from making your statement, and you should wait till we get into story number one.
Okay, so are you done with two then?
I sure am.
Okay.
The number one.
Dominating the Missouri political news cycle yesterday, as it does every year, the governor's State of the State speech. And this year, it's Mike Kehoe. And this year, it's talking about what everyone anticipated correctly to be the top topic of the speech, which was the elimination of Missouri's income tax and how he's going to do it. And when I mentioned that a gentleman in story number two would have a cameo in story number one, it was Bill Eigel. And we'll get to that in just a second. Mike Kehoe is proposing to eliminate Missouri's income tax over a period of time. I'll point people specifically to Mark Zinn's piece. You know, Mark is a reporter for the Nexstar family of television stations. That's Fox 4, Fox 2, etc. And Mark says, Kehoe's quote is, "It's time to show the country what the show me state is truly made of." And he said a main priority will be gradually repealing the income tax. So here's a key part of what Mark writes. In order to compensate for lost general revenue funds, you know, Brad, that's Democrats' main concern here is where are you going to replace the money? Kehoe proposed exploring new avenues for revenue. Kehoe's quote, "Today, much of our commerce happens through monthly subscriptions and digital services like online advertising, ebooks like Brad's trafficperfectstop.com, and AI platforms like Brad's Constant Experiments that fall outside of our current sales tax base." Now, if you're looking at this and saying, it seems like Kehoe is trying to make up revenue of an income tax with other avenues, I think it's fair to say you're right. Mark Zinn says, Democrats quickly jumped on the idea, returning a nickname given to Kehoe during the 2024 GOP primary for governor. Here's a quote from Ashley Awney, the super minority leader. "If you enjoy paying substantially higher taxes on just about everything you buy, then you'll love Tax Hike Mike's plan," said Ashley Awney. So Bill Eigel's refrain during the campaign of Tax Hike Mike is now resurfaced a year later as Democrats, 2 years later, as Democrats criticize this plan for new taxes on ebooks, e-commerce, things of that nature. So to be fair, Brad, I did not listen to Kehoe's speech. So there's some items of the context that I frankly don't have in my memory bank right now, but you can certainly find the link to all those stories on my website today. And for example, Mark's piece and the St. Louis Public Radio piece link directly to Kehoe's speech if you want to read it yourself.
You know, can I make a comment about that? Here's my comment I was going to reserve for your
yeah,
second.
Please do, Brad.
Okay. Here's what he needs to do. He's looking for alternative taxes. Essentially, he wants to tax you for Netflix and things like that. Correct? Isn't that what he wants to do?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, we're making it up through different taxes, through other things that aren't currently taxed. Yes.
I read a quote from his speech. He said something in the effect that we're taxing people for things that happened 100 years ago. Now we want to tax people for the next 100 years of what things are going to happen. Okay. I have a couple suggestions, and ironically, this is going to be my top one, but I will give you one right off the bat. This will be like a top three, Brad's top three plus one. They should tax political contributions. So at the rate of 25%. So when you send $100 to Bill Eigel, you have to actually send $125, and Bill Eigel has to remit that $25 to the state as far as the contribution tax is concerned. What do you think, John?
Well, you know that would actually never take place. That is certainly creative, Brad.
What do you mean it'll never take place? Why wouldn't they take place, John? I don't understand. Why would they not want to do that? Tell me, John.
Well, for a couple reasons. First of all, it's unconstitutional.
What?
And political contributions are free speech. Money equals speech, and you can't tax free speech.
Okay, so when I do my ebooks that he now wants to tax, isn't that my free speech? Isn't that me, saying, hey, this is what you should do. This is my free speech. I'm going to teach you how to not get a traffic ticket. Isn't that free speech, John?
You do make a good point. In the Citizens United Supreme Court case, they said a guy that will come up with an ebook gimmick based on his son's advice is always going to be exempt from this.
I have to tell you, the problem with this whole thing is I will never forget this, John. I will never forget this. I had, and here we go. John's going to go, here he goes again.
DTMTOTS. Which story is this? I'm spinning the wheel, Brad. What story is this?
This is probably 4 or 5 years ago, okay? I was at a lunch with legislators function at...
What's the size of state government in the last 5 years, Brad? Has it doubled?
Well, the crazy part of it is that this was Republican Richard West, who I believe is still a representative out there. And by the way, his company advertises on every other station except for ours, which bothers me a little bit, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, he gave these statistics that I was like, that can't be right. And I even, he gave his little speech, and then afterward, I said, Mr. West, is that really true that the state of Missouri's budget is larger than the state of Illinois' budget? Let's think about that for a minute, okay? We have the incredibly, blue state of Illinois, which taxes everything. Their sales tax is higher. You go across the bridge, and a gallon of gasoline in Missouri is $2.49. Over there, it's $3.49. Everything's higher. And then he talked about the fact that in the course of 7 years, the budget tripled or something crazy like that.
It didn't triple. I believe it doubled, depending on how you do the math. Yeah.
Okay. Isn't this a perfect example of the classic, this is almost the Dave Ramsey situation, is you have to get your expenses in control and not worry that much about the revenue. In other words, you want to try to increase the revenue, in this case, sales tax or whatever he wants to do with it, but can't you say, okay, maybe we don't need this, maybe we don't need this, maybe we don't need this, maybe we don't need all these parks, maybe we don't need a Department of Conservation, maybe we don't need this. You know what I'm saying, John?
I do, and I think the governor's team would probably point out the fact that the governor's budget proposed $600 million in cuts.
Yeah, but that's a drop in the bucket.
And you think, so where would you, so other than parks, so you pick up a couple $1 million in parks, do you have specific examples or ideas of where government should be cut?
Here's what Mike Kehoe should do if he was truly visionary. In his speech yesterday, he says, we need to cut spending. He says, I am giving a mandate to every department in the state of Missouri. Next year, you have 25% less funds. You figure out how to run your department, figure out how to run whatever you're spending on this year. If it's $100 million this year, next year you only have $75 million. Figure it out and get back to me. And we can, they'd all go, whoa, they'd all be like, pooping in their pants. But, that's how you do it. I mean, and I make the joke about I'm not a parks guy because I think, it always just drives me nuts. People talk about, I always give my classic example. People talk about, the best areas to live have a beautiful park. Okay, the most beautiful park in the Midwest is Forest Park, and the city of St. Louis is someplace I don't want to live. Do you want to live in the city of St. Louis, John?
Yeah, I want to live right there at the corner of Natural Bridge and Kings Highway.
Yeah, I bet you do.
So your idea, Brad, let's get back to this. Can you imagine if next year the Department of Social Services came out and said, thanks to Governor Kehoe, we've cut by 25% the number of folks who investigate child abuse claims, that help put kids in foster care. Thanks to Governor Kehoe, we have 25% fewer people helping the children of Missouri.
I would say great.
You would say great, and 98% of Missourians would say, what a terrible, heartless thing to do.
See, once again, here's the problem. The problem is you got to start somewhere. And once again, it's to the point where I've lived in situations like this in corporate life where the bosses come in and said, I mean, like, for example, I'll give the example of Emmis Broadcasting, okay? Perfect example. They went through, this is going back, Emmis used to own KSHE and what's the other stations, and K-Hits 96, and they used to own The Point and stuff like that. Okay, when the advertising revenue went in the toilet back in 2008, 2009, 2010, where the whole economy melted down, I remember them laying off half the staff. They went from like 150 people to 75 people. And I remember hearing the 75 people who were among those 75 people that were left saying, we all went, oh my God, how are we going to do this? And guess what? They did it. The station
made it happen.
They made it happen. The station stayed on the air. They still went out and if anything, the stations ran more efficiently because
they got better because they didn't have the excess layers of middle management. They got more lean. And that's what Mike Kehoe should do. Just cut 25% of the state workforce.
Right. Just cut 25% of the state workforce. Right. Once again, just like what Trump did.
I think you should cut your use of once again by 25%.
Okay. Once again, I'll try to do that. Okay. John, is that the end of A Block?
I can't wait to not hear a commercial from Mike McGee or a guy that says something, something, something. Oh my.
Okay. Here we go. We'll go from.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Pro Body Works, they'll make it shine. Can I just sing every commercial?
Oh no! Here's what I'll do to make our little. Here's what we'll do. Okay, here we'll do a couple things here, and then we'll be right back. Okay, ready?
I'm ready.